Pleased to be here with Lynn Denton, better known as the Grappler.
Thank you.
Welcome from the cross-country flight and being with us here today in Philadelphia. Mr.
Thank
Denton,
you very much.
most of the times we start off the interviews with how you started in the wrestling business, how you got started.
I got started actually through my father. Was a baseball player, football player in high school in Texas. That's where I'm from, Houston, Texas. Actually, a little town north of there called Humble, Texas. And my dad was in construction and remodeling, and he happened to go over to help a friend of his with a project, was building a carport for a guy that owned a fence company to park his trucks under, and the guy happened to be Tiger Conway Sr. And so he goes, him and his friend goes, you ought to see this guy. He's big and he likes sports. He's like you, and he's really something. And we've seen him wrestle on TV. And I said, I don't really care because I don't like wrestling anyway. And but my dad taught me into going because he really liked it. He watched it, Paul Bosch on TV every Saturday night, and I didn't. I could care less. I was into baseball and other sports and all that, and chasing women and all that stuff. And so but I went with him because he made me go to help. But I got along with Tiger. He was a nice guy, and then I met his son, Tiger Conway Jr., which turned out to be an asshole. But
You're the second person who said that tonight. That's funny.
Is that right? Later down the road. But he wasn't that bad because I chopped the hell out of him. So I beat the shit out of him. So, yeah, I got even with him in the end. But in the Bahamas. But right in front of his people. So I kind of got into it. I was at first it kind of threw me off because there was a guy there. Damn, if I could think of his name. He sold cars. This Tiger Sr. was into a little more than just doing fences, I think. I mean, I don't know the whole thing behind it, but he had piles of groceries here at his house, and he had cars he was selling and all kinds of things.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah. And so, but I mean, I like Tiger. I ain't trying to knock him at all. But he, anyway, the guy, God, I almost think of the guy's name, but he was there, and he was in a wheelchair, or he was on crutches. And my dad's friend says, hey, that wrestling, when they put that sleeper on you, does that shit really, excuse me, man, do me use bad language? So he goes, he says, does that really work? And the guy says, come here. And the guy's on crutches. He can barely walk, puts him to sleep. I'm sitting there as a kid. I watch him slobber and shake and fall on the floor. And I go, holy shit, they want me to get into this. And so I kind of shied away from it, but then my dad kept pushing. And then I ended up going over to, they had some Lucha Libre stuff in town. We're in Texas now. There's a lot of that going on. So I went over there. In 2 weeks, they had me doing handstand flips off of people's back, and my little brother can vouch for it. He couldn't believe it. He was watching, and they said, okay, you're booked next Saturday.
How old were you?
I was 17. And so he goes, I went home and told my dad, I'm booked. I don't even know what the hell I'm doing. I'm not going there. I was like, so they called Tiger, and Tiger Sr. said, you know what? He got pissed because they don't like opposition, and he goes, tell him to meet me at the Coliseum tomorrow. Let's meet at noon, okay? And let's see if he's ready to be a wrestler. And so we went down there, and Tiger tried to stretch me, but he couldn't. And I ain't saying I was tough or nothing, but he was kind of older, and I was in hellacious shape, right. Okay? I was getting ready to go to college, And so he just told my dad, I don't feel comfortable training him, and he'll never be nothing in wrestling. He's too small to start with. You should pursue another career. And so I kind of left there what a bummer. And then all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 weeks later, I forgot about wrestling again. My dad comes, here comes my dad again. He's not letting up. He says, look at this in the TV guide. There's a guy that's got a wrestling school, and his name's Joe Pizza. And I said, who? Okay. He says, and you go over there, and he's trained. So we go over there, and we visit this guy, and he sits down. He said, it costs $3,000. And I'm talking, this is way back in the 70s. And he said, but I can tell you right now that this kid will never make a dime in this business. He tells my dad this. He said, I can make him bigger and thicker, but I can't stretch him. He's 5'10", and he'll never make a dime. It's a big man sport. But if you want him to be trained, find $3,000 and bring it back. And so that pissed me off. Okay? And so I went and told my dad, I'm going to save the money, and I'm going to show that asshole that I can make it in pro wrestling. And he said, that's what you want to do? I said, yeah, that's what I want to do now. And so that's exactly what I did. And so when I wrestled in the Superdome and me and the Super Destroyer.
How long did it take for you to save $3,000 then?
It took me all summer doing hot roofs. You know the hot roofs are the tar roofs?
I only imagine standing on a roof in Texas in the summer. It's got to be
Yeah, and you know what? We didn't have the machine that they blow that stuff across there. You had to carry it in buckets. And it was real tough. But my dad kind of helped me along. You know, he was splitting jobs with me, and because he wanted to see me get in this. I trained for a year with the guy, and we wrestled, and we said we had to learn how to build a ring. We built him a ring, and then we had to learn amateur first, and then from the mat all the way up, and then finally we wrestled matches, and then a guy named Nick Kozak was the referee for Paul Bosch. His brother, Jerry Kozak, was promoter for the Funks, Terry and Dory. He got me there as my first territory. And I went for 2 weeks, and I got fired because I was too small by Art Nelson. And so my last trip of the 2 weeks, I'm driving, and they said, okay, today you're taking Abdullah to Albuquerque, Abdullah the Butcher. And so I was wrestling too, so Abby rode in the back of my car, slept actually, and I drove Abby, and we were going, I'll never forget, because he goes, when we get to Tupancare, baby, I want you to stop, baby, at the buffet. And so I go, okay, so I must kept driving. I don't know Tupancare. I seen the sign. Automatically, he wakes up. Taps me on the shoulder. He don't miss the buffets. He goes, stop right here in Tupancare. We ate, and so on the way back, blew my motor up in my car. I just had a hell of a start to wrestling, you know. I had to wire home for money to get my car fixed. And now I've been fired. But Abby gave me a hell of a piece of advice. He told me, write a letter to Dory Funk Jr. and tell him how much you thank him for giving you a chance to come out here and at least try. And if there's any way possible he could get you booked somewhere, please do. He said, seal the letter. Don't give it to Art Nelson at TV tomorrow. Unseal, because if he reads it, he'll throw it away. And he said, then you take it. And he said, before I got home in 2 days, my dad called and said, hey, you're booked for Bill Watts in Louisiana. Dory Funk Jr. just called. That's how I started out my career.
I don't understand how he just called Bill Watts and said, I got this guy. Can you put him
Well, Bill Watts, I don't.
Because you were relatively inexperienced.
I
Right?
had 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I'd been wrestling, for a year for the other guy.
Right.
But that was just independent stuff. I got 2 weeks under my belt in a real territory in Amarillo, Texas, and he read the letter and apparently had some feelings and said he had seen me, you know.
Right.
And I wrestled him one day one match on TV. It lasted 30 seconds. He was the world champion at the time. So he beat me with a figure 4 in 30 seconds. So he remembered me from the match. Right. But he probably here's what was going on. In Louisiana at the time, Leroy McGurk had Oklahoma, Louisiana, all that territory, Arkansas, Mississippi, and Bill Watts was helping run the Oklahoma part, but he was taking all the other part. And so that's a big territory. Nobody wanted to go there. You drive 3,000 miles a week and make $300. Okay? Drive yourself to death. And so we would make $25 a night and sleep in our car. You know, the Moondogs, many times. I remember that, sleeping with them in the car, and we wait for the early check-in, so we get 2 days in the room. And then
we're very familiar with that.
You know that one? And then it would heal the room, throw the mattress on the floor, flip, the guy that loses gets the box springs. Many times, right? So they were hiring anyone at the time, so that fell right into place. I guess he felt sorry for me. He goes, hey, he called Bill Watts, do me a solid and booked this kid. I went there, and a year later, I weighed 50 more pounds than I did when I left Amarillo. Yeah. They used to laugh. They said, well, you can gain some weight and work for us, or lose a little bit more and work for Little Brook, the midgets.
So describe that first year working for Bill Watts.
It was, I was petrified most of the time because it was a big man's business at that time.
And what year was it? Just so.
It was in 77. Because I graduated in 76, so into 77, yeah. Yeah. And there was guys like Killer Carl Cox that I thought was totally insane. You know, I still do. I know him, and I still think he is. There was, gosh, let me think of the guy that gave me the collar. He gave me this collar-flyer ear. Damn, I can't think of his name right now. Swede Hansen. Mm-hmm. So, Swede was like 360, and then he looked like, his hands, he looked like freak of nature. He's so big. He was an ex-boxer. And there was, a lot of big guys, and I met up with, I ran around a lot that first year and ran with Pork Chop Cash, and that's how I got bigger. He helped me with the weights. He taught me how to train and how to lift and what the right things to do because he was maxed out. He looked good. He had 21 inch arms cold, and so he taught me how to lift and get big. And then plus he was the same height as me, but he was just big. Mm-hmm. And so I said, I need to look like him to keep a job. And there was a lot of guys that's so intimidating, but I learned a lot, quickly. And what had happened right before I came there, a couple of guys that was from the same school as me, they got booked there. When I went to Amarillo, they went there. And one was named Shannon Powell, the black kid. And Carl Cox scared him so bad that he ran him out of the territory. I mean, he just left his clothes and everything. With his tights on, hit the car and hauled ass.
Oh, there's a spot opening up for you. So.
Yeah, it left me a spot. That's what Bill Watts said. The first night I was in Tulsa, I was doing push-ups, getting ready to go in the ring, and Cox come in and started it. And he goes, hey. Bill Watts heard it. He come in and stopped us. Hey, leave the kid alone. We want this one to stay a while. So Cox goes, what do you think you're doing? What are you doing push-ups for? I said, I'm getting warmed up for the match. That ain't the way you warm up for a match, you stupid little bastard. But there's a lot of things Cox did to me along my career. But he helped me a lot, too.
So you put a lot of miles in that first year, I'm sure.
Oh, gosh, yes. And then you'd be in the rookie, you drive all of them, They do the riding, and they would pay the trans was 3 cents, I believe. 2 cents, it started out 2 cents a mile. And then it went to 3 cents, and we thought. Then when it went to 4 cents, we thought this is getting outrageous. It's like
Who were some of the guys you worked with the first year?
I worked with the Oates brothers, Jerry and Ted Oates. Mm-hmm. I worked with a lot with Larry Booker, was the Moondog. A lot with him in single matches. I worked. Well, actually, on TV, all of them that were there, like Carl Cox, you had to work with any of them. It was there, And I remember one time because like I said, I'm from Texas, and Shreveport was where they did the TV, and it's not very far from where my dad was born and raised, Nacogdoches, Texas. And my grandfather was still alive then, and he would watch me on TV. And I was 17, 18, I was getting squash jobs, Mm-hmm. And so one day on TV, and he'd see it on Saturday. We wrestled. Me and a Mexican guy. I don't know who the Mexican guy even was in a handicap match against Ernie Ladd. Mm-hmm. And so Ernie beat both of us up, slammed me on top of the Mexican guy, and dropped a big leg and covered both of us. So that just happens to be the one day I had the next day off, and I was coming home to Houston, and my dad said, stop by and say hi to your grandfather. And he just seen me get to hell beat out two of us, and he goes, what is wrong with you? He said, can't you beat anybody? He's like, he had a picture of Danny Hodge over his TV, instead of me.
You didn't really want to give Grandpa the whole story, huh?
No, I didn't want to let him know the whole thing, yeah.
Were you working as just Lynn Denton or Dynamite?
Just Lynn Denton at that time.
So we weren't Dynamite Lynn Denton yet?
No, I was just straight Lynn Denton, yeah. That started in Calgary, Dynamite.
So you went from Mid-South after 1 year, and I have you as moving to Georgia.
I went from to Georgia.
What prompted the change from it?
It was Ole Anderson was the booker, and after so long, you're on that TV getting beat and beat and beat. You have to move on. They need some different talent. I mean, people finally go, how many times can they kill this guy, right? And so I became a good worker, but it was time for a move, and Bill just booked me there. Says, you're going to Georgia. They need talent in Georgia. Plus, he had the national TV and all that. You get a lot of work, and so he just says your time's done here, and so you need to go on to Georgia. And I went to Georgia from there.
It just seems like if you were saying, hey, I'm not a wrestling fan. I didn't want to get into wrestling, and then my first year was probably the worst territory you could start in terms of the driving.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that you ended up having a pretty long career in wrestling.
Yeah, it turned around a whole 360.
When did it flip? And you said, you know what, I want to do this.
Once I got into wrestling full time, and I seen some of the guys that was in it, and I respected them, and I seen what they went through, and how and what it really took. I said, you know what, this isn't like a lot of people think. They're actually closet wrestling fans, and they knock and say, oh, that's a bunch of phony bullshit. You know what? Lace your boots up, asshole, and get in that ring every night like I did, year after year. And follow these guys. These are some tough assholes out here. You know what? Just because they don't play pro football or pro baseball or this or that, stick your head in some of them buzzsaws and see what happens. Because I did. I know. I found out. Believe me, I respected it after a few months.
So you spent your second year working in the Georgia Championship Wrestling. How did that differ from the Mid-South area?
Well, they put me in. I was getting better as a worker, and looking the part better, and so they would use me, a little bit. But I remember they, like I said, they had the national TV, and that's the first time I wore the mask. They wanted different faces for that national television, Channel 17. Mm-hmm. And so they go, okay. So I remember one time I worked as a challenger, is what I was called. We just come up with a name on the spot. Well, you're the challenger. They put this mask on. So in the first taping on Saturday was in Atlanta, and I was a challenger on the first tape. On the second tape, I was Lynn Denton. And then we drive to Columbus, Georgia, and I was a challenger on the first part of the tape, and then I was Lynn Denton again. So that was 4 matches I had. And then we drove 200 miles to another town, and I wrestled 2 matches in a battle royal there. So I wrestled 7 times in one day and drove 400 miles.
Wow.
It's
probably a good payoff, though.
I was, yeah. And I'm doing a drive. I was wore out that day.
How close did that mask resemble the one that you used throughout most of your career?
It was, I think it was pretty similar to that, but it was blue. It was blue. It had sort of the same kind of face.
Do you remember who made your first mask?
And I don't know. Just one of the guys had it. And I just used it because they had it in their bag, and they needed me to wear a mask. That's how I ended up with it. And I just used the same one the whole time I was there, because I didn't wrestle the challenger that much.
Right.
So,
and you spent a year there, and then you moved to.
Well, that's when Ole Anderson asked for me to come to, or sent me to Carolina, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah. I think from there I went to the Carolinas.
So you went to the Carolinas before you went to Stampede?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
He sent you to the Carolinas to work for the Crockett's?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were your first impressions of working for them?
Well, they had such great talent, and they had they're really professional compared to some of the places I'd been. And then one of the best breaks that ever happened to me was Ric Flair lost his driver's license. And he had, I think he had a brand new Lincoln, and he had a brand new Cadillac, but he couldn't drive because he didn't have a license. Now, you got a picture, there's all these young guys there too, and I knew Rick, but I didn't know him that much well. But they said, okay, we got to have someone drive you to these towns. And every town Rick was in was sold out, and it was the best of everything. And he would say, he picked me. So they bring me in the office and say, Rick wants you to drive him to all the towns, and that means you'll be on the first match in all these towns, and they're sold out, and so you'll make good money. I go, I'm in. And plus, he'll ride with me so I can pick his brain, psychology for the ring for working, which I loved. And then he's buying all the beer. He's buying his women everywhere. It was great, man. It's the best year I ever had in wrestling. I was making $1,000 a week. Man, I loved it.
Why did he pick you?
I don't know why. I still don't know why. I don't know. But I was really grateful. I'll tell you a funny story one time. Because, he'd get on TV and say, I'm a diamond ring Cadillac, kiss, dealing, wheeling, dealing, son of a gun, We go to this Army base, and I had a Ford LTD. It was new, but it was a Ford LTD. It wasn't a Lincoln, and it wasn't a Cadillac. And so me and Flair, we come out of this Army base after the match, and these guys are giving us hell. And there's a bunch of crowd around us, but they're going, Lincoln and Cadillac, my ass. It looks like a Ford piece of shit. Now I'm getting mad because the guy's knocking my car. And I go, hey, you ass. So we start arguing, and Rick gets into it. Finally, he says, hey, guys, I tell you what, hot shot, follow us off the base, okay? And then we'll see what you say from there, okay? We'll settle it from there. Guys, go get in their rig, and let's go. I said, here we go, man. So we get off the base, and the guys are right behind us. So Rick goes, hey, once you get up on the freeway, pull over to the side, and we'll take care of these assholes. I said, you got it. I started to pull over and had a blowout. I could not believe it. It couldn't be any worse. Now they're really they stop about 200 yards behind, screaming at us, hey, you cheap. Calling us all kinds of names. They drove by throwing beer cans at us. Rick was so pissed. He threw his sports coat down. He's screaming at them to get out. They drive by and yell at us and all. They didn't have enough balls to get out. But so once everything's, I'm changing the flat, and he's raising hell with me. I said, hey, dude, does it look like I poked a hole in the tire? We're getting outside to do this, and we're arguing back and forth. Finally, I get the tire changed, and he says, okay. He says, tomorrow we're in Richmond, because we're headed for Richmond, Virginia at the time, and we had Richmond the next night. They stayed at, I forget, it's a big hotel there. He says, right across the street is a filling station. You take it over there, have them put 4 new tires on the car. We don't need this bullshit anymore. And he said, fill it up, change the oil, whatever you got to do, and to put it on my tab. I go, okay. So I go over, and the guy says, what kind of tires you want? Starts at the top of the line, brother. So I put in $100 a piece at that time, which is really expensive, right? So the next Wednesday, I pull into Raleigh, and Joe Murnick, okay? Now, they were covering his expenses. I didn't realize this. Joe Murnick's sitting in the Cadillac to promote her. And I get out, and I'm only like 18 or 19. And he goes, hey, kid, come here. I come over, he's sitting in a brand new Cadillac. He goes, how much do those tires on your car there cost? I said, them right there are $100 a piece, man. Them are the top of the He went ballistic. He said, I know, you little asshole. I paid for them. Anyway, I thought that was funny. But that's Ric Flair right there, man.
I'm well aware. So you spent a year in the Carolinas? Or?
Yeah, probably a year.
Again, who are some of the guys that you worked with there?
I worked with a Steamboat. I worked with Flair, actually. I worked with Jimmy Snuka a lot. I worked with, let's see who else. They had Paul Orndorff. Just all of them. All of them, Tony Atlas. You name it. They had a ton of talent there.
That was,
yeah.
You were was that late 70s probably? So
yeah, they had just a ton of talent there, yeah.
And they had I think that was the first time that territory had really gotten hot.
Yeah.
And then it dipped again and then got hot again in the mid-80s. So you caught it at a good time.
Yeah, there was just lots of talent there, yeah.
So what ultimately, is it just one of those things where you spend a year in a territory and it was time to move on?
You know what happened? I went from there, and I met Moose Morawski was working there. Okay. And he was doing a gig in Germany, and he says, you ought to go over there, and do it as a 6-week tournament. You make some pretty good money. And so you always make a little more money overseas, right? And so I said, okay. And so he said he'd get me booked there. That's how I ended up. So when I was finishing up my tour, Moose, I went from there, and I was getting married at the time to my first wife. So she went home back to Texas with me from North Carolina, from Charlotte. And then I went to Germany for 6 weeks. And that's where I met Dynamite Kid, Tommy Billington. Mm-hmm. and Bret Hart and all those guys, and worked with them. And and when I came back, I ended up going, I believe it was Calgary from there. I went to Knoxville territory for a little while, and they had a spot for me, but it just, I don't know, something about it didn't work out. I mean, they gave me a little bit of a push, but it just didn't fit. I don't know, it didn't work. And so that's when I got booked in, and that's where I was Dynamite Len Denton. Because Tommy was Dynamite Kid, right?
Right.
And then I did a thing where I went in there, like, because Bret was in Japan. And when I came in, I said, I'm coming looking for Bret Hart. And, of course, I know he's going to be gone for 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, I beat the hell out of everybody and told him how I ran Bret Hart out of his own hometown. Mm-hmm. And so it's just set up that situation when he come back, you know.
And then I also have you, you worked for the Tunnies in Toronto?
Yeah, well, that's when you worked with, when you worked for the Crockett's, they ran Toronto, like co-promoted that with the Tunnies.
Okay.
And so then you worked at Maple Leaf Gardens. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was in a match there with that dang. First time I worked there was with the guy that worked. Oh, let me think of his name. He's from Toronto. Dewey Robertson, yeah.
Missing Link.
Missing Link.
Yep.
And Dewey goes, that's before he was a Missing Link. He goes, we're in a tag match, and he goes like this. That ring was the hardest ring I've ever seen in my life in Toronto. It must have been a boxing ring. I don't know. But I didn't know that. And they got that big walkway that you walk out to it on. And so Dewey goes, said, you go ahead and, he said, I'll start. And so he started the tag match. And so when he did a little spot and he tagged me in, he fed me in, he goes, come in, it's backdrop. So I come charging in and take a backdrop. And when I'm telling you, I just stopped. I rolled over and he was laughing before I even hit the mat. Because nobody took backdrops in that ring. That's how I remember Toronto. Golly.
Were you part of the Battle of the Nature Boys angle when you were in Mid-Atlantic? They were the one with Buddy Roberts?
He was, yeah, that's when Buddy Roberts came in.
Buddy Rogers came in?
Or Buddy Rogers come in, yeah. And I worked with Flair. I did something with Rick. I can't remember too much about that, but I did something with Flair where he put the figure 4 on me,
Was Roddy Piper in the territory at that time?
Yeah, he was.
So that was the first time you probably worked in the territory with Piper?
Yeah, I think so. Charlotte was, first time. Mm-hmm.
And when was the first time that you actually used the name The Grappler?
You ever heard of a guy named Don Cornoodle?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, well, when I came back from Germany, and I think Calgary, I did that stint. I did all that. I couldn't get that push, that top break, and I was like in the middle of the road, And I'm going, man, you know what? I told my dad, I said, I'm getting out of this. I said, after my little run here, I went back to Charlotte. I said, after my little run here, because my wife was from there, so I said, I'm take her there. They'll give me. I know I can get a good 8 months, and so when they're done up with me in 8 months, I'm gonna let her visit her folks. And then I'm coming home. He goes, if you come home, he goes, I'll turn over this business. He had a construction crew and stuff. And he said, I'll teach you it all the way, and then you can just take it over. And I said, okay, I'll do that. And so that's where I'd planned to do, but I went back and worked. And so getting back to what you asked me, while I was there, Don Cornoodle and I had made trips together. He's a hell of a guy. We just was talking one day, and he says, you know what, I like to wear a mask sometime and wrestle with a mask. I think I could be better with a mask. And I go, well, what the hell would you call yourself? He said, I call myself the Grappler. That means wrestler, I go, you would? I said, that's pretty good name, And I didn't think no more about it. So I went to Norfolk, Virginia to wrestle on the Loop. And Charlotte, you do Norfolk and Richmond, and then you're back home. And so I went to Norfolk. We'd stay overnight, and then I'd go to the gym, and then go eat, and it's time to go to the show. So we went to the gym, and I was coming back down the hall in the hotel, and I forget who it was. One of the other boys go, hey, Lenny. I said, what? Says, hey, Buck Robley's on the phone from Louisiana. Hold on a minute. He wants to talk to you. I go, why? He goes, because he's booking, and he wants to talk to you about something. He's Louisiana for Watts. And that's when they just started doing the Superdome and all that stuff. So I got on the phone. He goes, hey, I heard you wear a mask. And I guess he heard about that from Atlanta, right? I go, yeah. He says, well, I need a mask guy right now, and I'm giving him a hell of a push. I'm talking a top push, okay? I know you know how to work good. I've seen what you can do. What do you call yourself? I said, the Grappler. And that's exactly how it started. Because Don Carlito still says I stole his gimmick. All the money that I should be paying him a percentage, he said.
So what did you go to Crockett and say I got a better offer?
Well, then, yeah, I just said, I'm going to give you my notice and head that way because they're going to give me a hell of a push, And then they did. I was there over a year, had the North American heavyweight title. Over a year, I had the Mississippi title, Louisiana title, everything.
The Superdome crowds, I mean,
a big time, yeah.
I mean, 20,000 people.
Yeah.
Right. Back then, that
was big time back then. Yeah.
You got to work with Junkyard Dog, who was the star of the territory.
Right. Yeah.
Remember any distinct stories of working the dog?
Oh, he would kill you. He'd hurt you, but he was. I loved him to death, but he was not the greatest worker in the world, but I knew how to work a match with him. I knew how to work around him where I could have a hell of a match with him. And I learned that stuff from Flair and guys like that. I could work with anybody. Yeah, I remember one in New Orleans, but it wasn't in the Superdome. It was in that the arena they used to do weekly. And I can't remember the name of it right now. There was a St. Bernard arena, but they did that once every couple months, called St. Bernard. But the one that they mainly did, I remember it was sold out. Okay, everybody always says sold out, right? But it was, it was sold out. And it's like, predominantly black people, right? Because men, dogs on top in some kind of match. And I'm standing in the ring with the referee, Jack Howell. And I'll never forget because they were doing this. The whole crowd's chanting this before he comes out. Who that said they're going to beat that dog? Who that? Who that? That was before the Saints ever heard of it, okay? And so I'm waiting. I was getting chilled. I said, listen to this crowd, man. They love this guy. I told Hal, I said, tell Dog, I said, catch him before he gets in the ring. Tell him because he had the chain with the collar and all. I said, tell him when he comes through the ropes, I'm going to jump him and get this thing kicked off right. And he says, okay. So I see him lean through and telling him as he's coming through. So as soon as he steps through, I start on him. Bam, 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 bam. And I'm working him over. And I look out in the crowd, and everybody starts like jumping and diving and under their seats and all this. And I'm like, so when you see that, it's usually a fight. So when there's a fight in the crowd, the first thing you're taught to do is just get a hold because you're wasting your time. Right, until the fight's over, nobody's watching what you're doing. So I just got a hold. I said, just lay there, brother. So we get a little rest right here. So I'm waiting for the fight to be over. Finally, I see them all getting up, getting back in their seats, So I went on into the match. We had a hell of a match. I didn't think nothing about it. I'm leaving. The police officer calls me over to the side. They had real security, policemen there for security. He says, you need to shake this man's hand. I said, why? He just saved your life tonight. He said, when you jumped the dog, he said, this police officer told me this. He said, I usually go walk you guys to the ring, and I go to the back and stand. But I wanted to see how this match, because I was interested in this. So I stood at ringside. When you jumped the dog, a guy stood up with a pistol, and I just happened to catch him pulling it out of his coat. And he said, I got him. My buddy helped me. We took him down, took it away. He's sitting right at ringside. He said, he'd have blew a hole in you that big. I go, man, you don't know how much I want to thank you. But they, down south, they take that to heart sometimes. They love that Junkyard Dog down there, big time.
You remember any distinct memories of working with the Super Destroyer against Andre and Dusty?
Yeah, I do. I remember Andre giving me a backdrop. And me and Andre always got along real well. We were friends, and if he came to the territory, he'd say, hey, boss, he'd tell them he's driving me. Because he knew I liked to drink beer, and, man, he'd kill you. He loved to drink, And we have fun, And but in that particular match, he gave me a backdrop. And the only way I can describe it is, if you've ever dove in a pool and you're trying to get to the top and you go like that, but you're not quite there yet, and I'm running out of air. Well, when it's timing when you take bumps, And so from a guy like you or any other person, I know exactly I can just feel exactly when I'm going to hit. I thought I was never coming down. He launched my ass. I'm like, golly. I'm like, dude, he must have been excited too. There's a lot of people there. He just shocked me. Up there, boy. I mean, off the giant. But he's so big and so strong, he could just manhandle you. You know, it's like it was amazing. He was really a. I mean, there was no one in the business that could. I actually seen him do things like with Hogan one time. We're in the locker room and Hogan was new at starting, and he said that nobody can break my full Nelson. You know, that was his hold at start. You know, and you can put it on a shooting way where you can't. Andre got up and said, "Put it on me." Everybody got quiet, like, whoa, because Hogan's a big guy. You know? He put it on. It's like butter. Like, I mean, you can't hold that giant. He's too much.
It's too big?
He's too big, yeah.
Another thing I have you down for is you worked with probably a very young Ted DiBiase in the Mid-South area.
Yeah, he's, you know, when I first started in Amarillo, you can ask Teddy if you ever seen this. Him and I can't remember his partner, but they were a tag team, and he was young, but he was a really good worker, you know. And I was trying to learn how to work, and I remember telling Ted in the locker room, you know, he still laughs about it now. He said this guy came. I seen him in Amarillo, and because I asked him, I watched their match against Rip Hawk and the guy I was talking about earlier, Rip Hawk and Sweet Hansen, yeah. And they had a hell of a tag match, man, doing high spots all over. And so I go, man, I hope, man, do you think I'll ever be able to do that someday? I remember asking DiBiase that. And he goes, oh, yeah, kid, you'll be able to do that one day. He said, a year later, you're calling the spots out there. He said, I couldn't believe it.
Did you wear an orthopedic boot because of a childhood injury, or was that?
No, you know, that came from, there was a guy, Robley and those guys, and Watts had a guy, Dr. X, way before me. It was in Louisiana that did that loaded his boot. And so they incorporated that in there. But what was so awesome about it, my dad was actually like had one leg shorter than the other. So when people would see my father, because he would come they would think that I'm that way, even the guys. You know, I fooled Chavo Guerrero one time. We're in San Antonio, and so the shower room was real small. And he had never met me. This is the first time. He goes, how you doing, Chavo? How you doing, the Grappler, Lyndon? Okay, and he asked me the same question you just did. Was there something wrong with your leg? Is that why you have that big boot? I go, yeah, I'm crippled, man. He goes, oh, okay. So he kind of like, you know, he felt kind of bad, but he wasn't trying to be mean, so I just ignored it. Like, so he watched me. He believed me, you know. So he watched me. So when I come out of the ring after wrestling, I took my shower shoe and everything, and I limped like this, and I raised my foot up all the way to the shower. He came. I knew he was coming. I'm taking a shower, and I kept my foot off the ground like this. In a few minutes, boom, he pops his shirt. Oh, sorry, man. I go, what's wrong with you, man? Then after a little while, I exposed it, right? He got so pissed off. He goes, you took me for an asshole.
You also worked with Mr. Wrestling too. Was that was as a grappler? It was like Grappler versus.
It was as the Grappler in Louisiana when I was there the second time. Mm-hmm. When I was there, like at the Superdome and all that stuff, I worked with him wrestling too. I think we did an angle, our little program in Louisiana. Yeah, I worked with him in Georgia too. Whenever I was just in Denton, you know.
Because he was the big star of Georgia.
Yeah.
Whose idea was it to introduce the second grappler?
That was Bill Watts, because he liked the grappler idea, you know, because he came up with it. Well, he came up with the mask thing, but the name I had. But he liked that Tony Anthony was the grappler number 2, and he really liked his. He was a good worker, you know, and he wanted a tag team, and so he came up with that idea.
Did Buck Robley, was he the booker the entire time you were in Mid-South?
No, he not the whole time, but most of. The first time around. Next time was Ernie. Well, no, when I first went when I was young, it was Jody Hamilton, and then when I came back with the mask, it was Buck Robley, and then when we came back as the Dirty White Boys too, and then it was Ernie Ladd.
I just want to make sure I got this right. You can help me out because you were there.
Okay.
Buck insists that when he was booker of Mid-South, business was way up.
Yes.
And when he was not booker, business went way down.
That's true.
True?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Give Buck his due.
No, Buck did. He drew a lot of money there. That's honestly.
Was Was he really that great with ideas?
Yeah, he was. He was good with ideas.
What distinguished him from other people who booked that territory?
I think when Jody was booking, he was just in the. That's when they were just really. They didn't have a lot. Like I was saying, they were taking just anybody for talent. So they were trying to get it established, all those towns, and get good talent in. When Buck came in, he had good talent around him. That's what the difference was. He always had top-rate talent around him. And then when Ernie was there, he was in the learning process of being a booker. Buck had already been a booker. I actually took Buck. I didn't take his job, but they gave me his job as a booker in Kansas City when Harley Race did. I went there for Buck, and Buck quit, so they made me the booker. I go, now I'm the boss here, right? I came here just to work.
How did your first run as a booker there go?
It went well. It was rough. I mean, because everybody hates the boss, because you hire and fire, and of course when you first get the job, everybody's your friend. They think you're going to give them the greatest push in the world. You can't push everybody as a superstar. Sure. If somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. So you end up being, a lot of enemies and guys, But it was really a good learning process, and it really taught me a lot about the business that I needed to know.
We'll talk more about you being as a booker when we get to your Pacific Northwest days. Just one thing I want to hit, there's some questions over how the DDT was invented. Jake Roberts claims that it actually happened in a match that the two of you had by chance. He said front face lock, you fell backwards, and DDT was invented.
That's true. And what happened was we were working. I was when I had the North American heavyweight title, and like you said, remember they had Junkyard Dog and the Freebirds and all those guys there. Well, they were in matches. They would have matches. I was a wrestling heel. That's why they had me there, because I could go 45 minutes or an hour and keep the people entertained. Okay. Now, excuse me. So what they would do is they'd put me in the semi a lot. They'd get the time out of me in the show, and then they would throw on the furniture movers in the end and entertain the people and send them home. Mm-hmm. And so they'd go, okay, Lenny, we need 45 minutes tonight. We need 30 minutes tonight. We're in the heat in Louisiana, in Texas. And then me and Jake, and we're in Lake Charles, Louisiana, and it's pouring sweat, and I got him working the front face lock and calling spots and going back to it, calling spots and going back to it, calling spot, and all of a sudden we slipped, and boom, and that's how it happened. And the people popped. He said, did you hear that? I said, did you hear that bullshit? Let's try that again. And we did. This time he slapped me on the back, and they even popped louder. And I go, now where the DDT name came from, Jake, that's all Jake. Okay. But the move and all, that's honestly how it happened. And we started using it for a high spot. It was so good, I said, we got to quit doing that because we need it for a finish. Because it looks worse than what we're doing to beat people with, And then it just kind of incorporated and came along, down the line.
I have a story, and it may be misplaced, that you confronted Bill Watts about some poor payoffs, and then he ended up sending you to work for Ole Anderson in Georgia.
Yeah.
Was that the first time you got sent to Georgia, or was this more
that was the second time. Yeah, that was. I learned one hell of a lesson there. I was riding with Dusty Rhodes coming back from some town, and we had done a Superdome show, and I made $3,000 that week. Okay, that was for the whole week, not just. But I was 21, okay, years old. And so that's pretty good payday for a guy 21 years old. And so I was bitching about it. So Dusty goes, baby, listen, baby. How many guys, baby, that makes $3,000 a week, baby, especially nowadays, all this stuff. I said, I don't care, man. I said, Dog, I know Dog made $5,000. I know this guy made that. I know Orndorff made this guy made, and hell, I'm the one carried the match. I'm blah, blah, blah. He said, man, you need to slow down, baby. Look, just, hang in there. And not me, I let my ego get in the way, right? And so I went and told Bill, you know what? I feel like I got screwed on the payoffs. I want to get out of here. He says, well, and I heard they were wanting me, and they were calling, wanting me and Tony, me and Super Destroyer in Charlotte, and they were going to and they called and said, yeah, we're going to put the world straps on you guys. So they're going to put the world tag belts on us. So I'm out of here. Okay, that's fine. Buddy, did I ever know? So I guess it's probably like maybe 2 months later, my check, I drove about 3,000 miles. I didn't have no world strap, and I had a check in my hand for $300.
For the week?
For the week.
Oh, wow.
And so I went into Ole's office. He goes, so what's your problem? I go, man, I said, and I told him, I just left Louisiana. I made 3,000. He said, maybe you should have stayed there. He was hardcore. And I said, okay, I get it, assholes. I just got it. Yeah, I learned a heavy lesson from that one. Yeah, you got to pay attention before you start letting get out of hand. I should have listened to Dusty.
Let's say those bookers, they work together, don't they?
Yeah, they were working together back then.
How about your memories of working in Southwest for Joe Blanchard?
I enjoyed working for Joe Blanchard. My dad promoted towns with him and for him. He did Beaumont, Texas a lot. And but yeah, I had a pretty good run there, and I enjoyed it. I think me and Tony were the tag champions for a while there, and we had a pretty good run.
And the two of you worked together in Continental. I think you went to Puerto Rico together.
I never went to Puerto Rico. We were supposed to go. Uh-huh. He might have went, but we were supposed to go, but I couldn't make a deal with Carlos. I was trying to get more money. We worked off like about a couple $100, and he, a week guarantee, and he wouldn't do it. So I was making pretty good money already, and so I didn't budge. I really didn't want to go to Puerto Rico. I knew it was a fight every night with the fans. I've been in enough of them already.
Around this time, you and Anthony had a very successful pairing. You went through Southwest, went through Continental, and then you ended up in Memphis. Describe going through so many different territories. Was the Grapplers were that much in demand?
Yeah, it was a good tag team, and in that time in Memphis, they had like the Rock and Roll Express. Mm-hmm. There was us. I think it was. There were like 4 or 5. There was a bunch of tag teams in Memphis. Fabulous ones. They had a tag team thing going there. And it ran pretty good for a while. So we had a pretty good run out of it.
Did you find that the payoffs in Memphis were a little lower than the other territories?
Yeah, they weren't as good. Some of I did pretty good. I mean, I can't complain about it. I did all right. I mean, it depends on the person too. A lot of times.
I just wonder with someone like that. Would you and Anthony cut separate deals?
No, I normally cut the deals, and I wouldn't. I didn't want to work like that, because it caused too much friction. I do remember one time in Hawaii. Me and him went to Hawaii a bunch of times together. Worked for Liam Mavia, and he said it's like I got us over there for a week. We stayed for a week. We wrestled one time in the Hula Bowl. We wrestled Rocky Johnson and his uncle and his brother in a tag match. And they were doing the thing where Crockett's guys would come from Japan, and then they would meet halfway, and then they had us on the card against Rocky and them. And it was a pretty good show. But we got $1,000, okay? And we're there all week for hotel, and they flew his girlfriend. I was divorced at the time, and he got $1,000, and he told me next time we come back, we gotta get more money. This is bull crap, It's like, so, and he hadn't even said a word. I'm the one that got the money to start with, right? And I'm like, Tony, okay.
Who else gets paid to go on vacation?
Yeah, I know, for a week in Hawaii. But so that kind of stuff, when it gets to the money, I try to keep it where it was even because it caused too much conflict otherwise, Right.
How about memories of working Jerry Lawler in Memphis?
I remember. I remember one particular match. We went to the arena, and the house was down in Memphis, and they used to do. I forget what they normally did, but it was down like $8,000 or $9,000 or $10,000 from the week before, and they're like, this thing just dropped off, and they were actually saying, "Hey, has anybody got any ideas?" So I said, I got an idea. What's the old guy that they used to fight all in the concession stand, and he's famous there, old timer in Memphis.
Oh,
He's
he's
blonde.
one of the brothers, right?
Yeah. Jack Fargo and Don Fargo and Jackie Fargo. He's the guy. Well, they used to fight all over. I said, why don't we do? I mean, I'm not from here, I've heard all these stories, but I said, why don't we do like that? Because it was me and Tony was working with Lawler and Savage that night. I said, why don't we have one of them matches where we fight all over the building? Hell, let's shake them up. He says, you won't touch us. Let's go in the nickel seats, man. I'm not scared. He says, okay. Golly, I've never been hit so many times by fans. I didn't do it after that anymore because I remember Lawler saved my ass on one deal. And then a guy hit me so hard luckily I seen him coming in the top of the, because I ducked down like that. I couldn't even touch my head right there for like a month. He busted something right there. And then we was just fighting people everywhere. But the house was up the next, when we come back, it was back up.
Right.
So it worked, but it took a hell of an ass whooping for it.
And Jimmy Hart was your manager all that time?
Yeah, a lot of times, yeah.
It's rumored that you quit the territory because Eddie Marlin pushed you to lose your mask to Lawler. Is that true?
He said, I forget who was in the tag match. It was Lawler and someone. It was a tag. And so we went to TV on Saturday in Memphis. He says, okay, we want you to do a promo. I said, what? He says, the mask versus hair. And I go, well, who's shaving their head, Eddie? And Lawler or Savage? He just looks at me. I go, because I ain't taking my mask off. And he goes, well, just go do the promo, okay? You got it. So I did the promo. So we get there Monday. Tony's all dressed. I didn't even put my gear on. I already knew what was coming. Tony's got his gear on. I didn't say anything to him. So I go over there and I said, hey, kid, look, we'll send someone out with a towel. I said, you know what, man? I spent 10 years building this gimmick. And it's a grappler. And you don't know the bumps and all the bullshit I took to get here, okay? I understand that these guys are big stars, but they ain't no bigger than I am, all right? Mask ain't coming off unless they can take it off. And so, and I know you can't. And he goes, fine. Then you guys are done. I said, get my check wrote out. So I went over and told Tony, I said, get your gear off. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, we're not working tonight. We're not working tonight. I said, no. And I said, matter of fact, we're not leaving out the back. We're walking to the front because I ain't going to have them go announce that we were chicken shit and left and scared some of the wrestlers, and we ran away. So I went out the front, waved bye to everybody so they knew I was there.
Also, a story of you pulled a rib on Kaufman where he was scared of you.
He was sitting in a Denny's restaurant, and we come in from some town to do TV on Saturdays. On Friday night, he was sitting, and he's eating, and he's got like all these I don't know who they were, 3 women with him, right? So I go, hey, boy, what the hell are you doing with these girls here? These girls are for us, not for a guy like you. He didn't know what to say. He just stared. I thought he would laugh, I had a couple beers, He just stared at me. It scared the hell out of him. So after that, he never talked to me. So that's all that was. It wasn't a big deal.
Did you like Kaufman being in the territory?
It didn't bother me at all, man. Yeah. The only time I ever seen him usually was at, Memphis and then at TV,
But do you think he was good for business, or did he just get played out?
See, if I was there, I think at the time, I didn't think much of it because we did stuff a little more hardcore. Nowadays it's more like Vince has more actors and more showbiz to it and all. But at the time, I don't remember really knocking it at all. I mean, I think it was drawing money, so I was happy to get the payday.
A question I forgot to ask you, just because we went through Southwest Wrestling. You worked with Gino Hernandez a few times?
Yes.
Did you see any of the stuff that ultimately led to his death, and was he out of control when you were working with him?
I've seen him come in, but not necessarily like any of the others of us, like we'd come in hungover and
Right.
sometimes and flop down the dressing room floor, and we were young, we were running wild and doing crazy stuff, but I didn't see anything like way overboard. He didn't do anything in the dressing room in front of anybody that I ever seen. So no, it shocked me. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, the guy was a hell of a worker. He was a good worker.
How about your time with World Class?
Yeah, I really liked being there because I'm from Texas. This Von Erichs, I got along with all of them, but it's like, one time I remember working, trying to carry some of them boys on TV. That Mike, the redheaded one, of course he died, but I remember he was so messed up at TV, and I'm trying to hold him up while we're on the air. Like he's got a headlock on me, I got him waist locked as hard as I can. and just that was kind of rough sometimes.
Now you went to World Class, but you left your tag partner behind, right? You didn't take him over there.
Well, see, now World Class, when I was in World Class, that wasn't Tony at Grappler number 2.
No, but when you came to World Class, you came by yourself.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Why did you leave Tony? Because you had a pretty successful run still.
He went. I can't remember where we were at before I went there. I don't remember what territory we were in, but I know that Tony got hooked up with in Birmingham, working in that territory, and then he started using that girl. I guess eventually was his wife as a valet, and we just went our separate ways from there. We decided to do something different. Yeah, it wasn't that we weren't fighting or arguing or anything like that. We both just decided just to go a different way, He wanted to try that with her too, and then I wanted to go back to singles for a while, and I wanted to go home to Texas.
Did you have a preference working the singles over tags, or is it just whatever was better for
I liked singles better. I would rather work a single and a tag. You have to think for 2 people all the time,
How about memories of teaming with John Tatum and with Missy Hyatt?
I didn't team with them too much, but I did a lot of drinking with them. But I remember working a match in Lawton, Oklahoma with them. But I always got along with Johnny Tatum fine and Missy.
How about memories of working Bruiser Brody?
Buddy, that was a rough one, man. I love Frank. We're both from Texas, and he was a friend of my dad. He got to be good friends of my dad's because he used to ride to Beaumont with him. My dad was running Beaumont, and but friend or not, he would wear you out there in the ring. You get booted in the head just like the rest of them. It didn't matter. He was just a rough and tough guy, and for real, And when you go into a match with Frank, you better be ready because he's going to impress the people 5 or 6 rows back when he chops you, or even further. Or he gives you a boot to the head. Believe me, they're going to feel it in the top row. It's like, so that's the way Frank was, and that's the way he believed it,
Another person that you worked with quite a bit in World Class is the Jim Hellwig, Dingo Warrior.
Yeah. Gosh, they put me with him when he was he was the Dingo Warrior, and they was trying to teach him how to do the press slam, and just trying to get him better to give him a push because he was green still, And I remember him taking one time me on a press slam, and he got his finger where you're not supposed to.
Right.
And I'm gonna tell you, I thought he never was gonna turn me. I was about to pass out. He finally got me turned on it, right? Golly. You talk about getting checked for a hernia. That was a rough one. But he finally got it down. He can press slam you now.
Did you have or is there any animosity towards the way? You have a glass ceiling when you're dealing with the Von Erichs. Their father's the promoter of the company. They were limited in the ring, but obviously they had the crowds. They had
Sure.
The charisma. How was it working? That's a unique situation in any territory.
Well, yeah, because they're going to favor to them because they're the owners. So and you found that a lot in different places. And you just had to try to have a gimmick where you could work with them, because if you're working against them, you're going to be there long.
You're overstuck.
You're just going to be a limited time until you're gone,
Memories of working Eddie Graham's territory.
Well, when I first went there, I was young. The first time in Tampa, Eddie was still alive. And I remember working in Orlando, and Eddie Graham came up to me himself, and he goes, "Hey, kid, you work pretty good for a kid your age, And he goes, "I'll tell you what I want you to do. I want you to go down to the snake pit." Is what they call it, where they stretch people. And I knew what it was. And then I want you to learn how to shoot. And he said, then I'll give you a push, and I'll make you a star in this business. And I go, this is probably one of the stupidest things I ever said in wrestling. I went, I don't want to learn how to shoot. I said, that never draws no money. I want to learn how to be a good worker. There's a guy standing there could have made me a bigger star in wrestling if he really wanted to. I was too dumb to know. So he just looked at me and walked off.
Tell us a little more about you. You ended up booking the territory. Was that Bob Geigel's territory?
Yeah, Bob Geigel and Harley Race. Yeah.
How long did your stint as booker last?
That was almost a year. Yeah, 8-9 months, I think. I was, like I said, I went in for Buck Robley to work. Me and Tony as a tag team. Frank was there at the time doing shots or what. And Buck I don't know what happened, but Buck left. I don't know if it was an argument or what. Harley was in Japan. And so I wrestled I think it was Saturday we wrestled in Kansas City. And Harley flew in from Japan because they were having this problem. And he talked to Geigel, and they got me and asked me to come into the room. I said, and he asked me, Harley asked me, would I like to take the booking job? And I told him it'd be an honor. Because I'd done it before, I knew how, but he called Geigel over and said, tell him what you told me. And I said, I told him it'd be an honor to book this territory. He goes, you got the job. And then we went from there, And I always respected Harley,
Marty Jannetty's made comments of, I guess, during that time, he really credits you with helping him get his career launched.
Yeah, he came along just a green kid, and then I said, you make money with this. I'd been seeing, the Rock and Roll Express and all those guys, and they had, I think it was Tommy Rogers, made them partners, and gave them a push, try to update their gimmick and, try to build them instead of just send them out there to wrestle every night,
Right. We've talked about all these other, excuse me, talked about all these other promotions, but you're really most known for your time in Portland.
Right. Yeah.
What brought you to Portland?
Rip Oliver he had got booked by Vince to go over to WWF when it was WWF, And so me and Rip had been partners in Florida. We actually were the tag team champions, I think, once. And known him a long time. He says, so they had never really had a booker per se. Don just had someone help. Don Owens is old school. And so he goes, the guy you need, Rip Oliver actually is the guy that called me and says, hey, I'm leaving. You should take this position. And so I called, and then I worked out a weekly figure, guarantee with Don. And that's how I ended up going there. It was Rip Oliver because he was headed for New York.
Who were some of the big stars of the Portland area when you took over as assistant booker, I guess?
It was Roddy Piper would come in. Some of the guys that was already there, they had Coco Samoa was wrestling there, Mike Miller, Buddy Rose every once in a while, Billy Jack Haynes, and then Rip, but Rip went to New York, and Steve Dahl, and the other kid, Peterson, I can't think of his first name. But then also Cuban Assassin I think he wrestled under the hood there too, as Top Gun. I think he worked as Top Gun some.
The Portland area, from my understanding, was very much like Memphis, where it had a lot of highs and lows. It when you came in as a booker, where was the Portland territory?
It was low because he was on his way to New York, so he wasn't really doing that much. Excuse me. I remember because Don Owens, he'd always be like when he paid you, everybody's in this one room, and Don'd been around forever, and his dad, and he'd said, this dumbass Texan thinks he knows how to run this place. He don't know nothing about the Northwest. He don't know nothing about these people. I don't know where he got this big reputation as he knows how to be a booker. And he just, every week, I'd hear this, right, in front of the guys. And so finally, I said, Don, I tell you what, you give me 6 weeks, okay, and you let me do whatever I want to, whatever I want to call, or whatever I want to do on TV. And if I don't sell this place out, then I'll quit and walk out, and you won't even owe me for that night's pay. And I stuck my hand out. You want to shake on it from everybody? That's where this Texan will bet you right now. And so he goes, you sure? I said, yes. I said, okay. I said, anything I want to call. It's okay. Shook hands. 6 weeks later, we turned away 600 people.
What'd you do?
Don comes in, said, you asshole. I said, what's the matter? I said, I just sold it out. He goes, that's 600 people. It's going to be pissed off they couldn't get in the ring. He never was happy, okay, no matter what she did. I never forget him telling me that. He's mad because the 600 people walked away. And then we got into a thing, this is a real classic here. We got into a thing where I was working at the angle with Fujinami to go to Japan for the heavyweight title. And so I dropped the belt here in Oregon, and I took it back in Japan. But while we're doing this, I did a thing and sold out Eugene and sold out Portland. And so Don, I felt like he screwed me on the pay. Here goes get back to getting screwed on the payoff again. I got screwed again by this little move. I said, you screwed me on the payoff. Give me some more money, old man. He goes, that's all you're getting. I said, you owe me another $500. He's going, no, that's all you get. So he wouldn't give me no more money. And so he paid my phone bill, my long distance bill. So when I went to Japan, you see me call my wife earlier? I called her 3 times a day. Collect.
So you got that 500 then some.
Well, when I got back, I got fired. And Roddy Piper took my job. But he rehired me. That's a true story.
But as a booker, there are some challenges in Portland that don't exist in other states. Do you want to talk about some of those with the commission?
Oh, yeah. It's like they got to the point where, well, you can't hit a guy with a chair. You can't hit a guy with a table. I broke this thumb for the 3rd time. And so I had it wrapped all up. I was on a Friday night in Eugene. Saturday is our TV, and so I got 2 little girls, and so I got to make the TV show because that's where I make my money. And so I got it all wrapped up like a cask, and I'm working with Matt Bourne. Of course, he has to step on it, right? Anyway, that's the way Matt is. But I don't think he meant to, maybe once in his life. But I got fined $250 for wearing excessive tape on TV. I mean, that's how bad the commission got. And so I had to go down and sit and buy the guy lunch, and I got it waived. I said, I can't afford $250. I got kids I'm trying to feed. This is the way I make a living, guy. He goes, okay, I'll waive it, but don't be doing that anymore. If you got to wear a lot of tape like that, you need to go see a commissioned doctor and have it checked out and then make sure you. I'm like, I mean, we're wrestling for a living, okay?
Well, it just ties your hand as a booker, too. It gives you a lot of the ideas I'm sure that you would otherwise use in some other states you just can't use.
You couldn't use, yeah. You couldn't do a lot of things. We did a thing one time where we come out and we beat guys up with gallons of milk because we couldn't do nothing. We couldn't use chairs. Me and Nord the Barbarian. Yeah, we got the commissioner so mad at us. If you ever get hit with a gallon of milk, it hurts like hell.
I'm sure.
So we took gallons of milk. And people they loved it. They never seen nothing like that. And we just killed the guys in the ring. We took Cheerios and gallons of milk, and we called it the Breakfast Club. If we came with the Breakfast Club, you're in trouble, brother.
Do you have any memories of working Kurt Hennig when he was an AWA champion?
Yeah, Kurt was the smoothest silk. He was one of the best workers ever, and great guy too. He's a good friend of mine. I hate to see he's gone.
About memories of a young Art Barr?
Yeah, Art was like, when they say it's like a night off, it's a night off. I mean, I could work a match with him with my eyes closed. He was that smooth. It's just so easy. And keep the crowd. And the little guy, too, but he just has so much electricity and so much excitement that people would just go nuts for him,
Were you the booker when Bart Sawyer did the Bart Simpson character? Bart Simpson, the cartoon character from The Simpsons?
Yeah, but I think it was me and Roddy doing that. Yeah, I believe so, yeah. Yeah, because Roddy we were doing it together then.
And people now know him as Raven. Scotty the Body was a worker in your territory in the early 90s. What do you remember about him?
He came in, and that's when I had came back from Japan, and like I said, I wasn't lying there. I got fired, and Roddy took the position, but he's doing the Love Boat, and he's doing movies, and he's doing everything, and he hired me back. And so I actually was the booker, but we put our ideas together, and we did some really good houses. But Scotty the Body came in, I forget where he was working before that, but he came in to Don's office, and he was looking for a job. And so they come back there, Barry Owens came back and said, there's a kid, he looks pretty handsome-looking kid. I don't know if I can work or what, but he's interested in a job. You guys want to look at it. He said, tell him to come back here. So we got him in the locker room, and Roddy Piper looked at him and then talked to him. Said, can you talk? And then he said, well, tell you what, come back next week, and we'll put you out on TV to do some talking. And that's where it started. Yeah, developed from there. And Roddy, they started a thing where he said, pick your nose next. He said, when you go out this time, start talking for a bit and pick your nose, and I want to get somebody to start chanting snotty the body. That's how it started. And he got, he got the people with him, getting on him, and then he got better and better and better. He's a very good talent too.
You also did a lot of training of other wrestlers?
Yeah, different guys, yeah.
One that I have here is Dave Sullivan, who went on, I guess, he worked in WCW.
You're talking Dave Sullivan. No, you're talking about. I'm talking about.
I think he worked as the equalizer in your.
Yeah. His name is Bill Dannenhauer, not Dave Sullivan.
No, Dave Sullivan was his working name.
Oh, was that his working name there? Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, I didn't even know that. Yeah. I trained him. I worked with him a lot.
Have you kept in touch with him?
Yeah, I talked to him every once in a while. Yeah. He's like a
football coach.
He's a sports. He's the head over the whole thing at the college there. Yeah, he's the athletic director.
Okay.
Actually. Yeah. Yeah, Bill's a good guy. Yeah, and I worked with him a lot. He worked as my tag partner a lot too. He's another guy that hurt you just getting in and out of the
ring. You ran Roddy Piper's Pit transmission shop. 14 years. What did you do there?
It was what we done was I was fixing to. I'd been almost 5 years as the booker, and I was getting out of there. And I was leaving, and Roddy goes, I want to open a business in town, and you're the only person I trust with my money, that I would hand my money or my name or anything to, and trust that they'd take care of it. And so I was already doing commercials for a guy in town for transmission shop, and so I'd already been going over there, and I was interested in having one myself. And so then Roddy brought this up, and it just fell together. And it's kind of like my dad was still alive at the time, and I told him that Roddy's putting the money up, and we're going to open a transmission shop. And he says, why don't you just build space shuttles? Hell, find something you really know about. So I said, well, he said, why don't you pick transmissions? I said, I don't know. What do you pick anything? It's a business. But I gave him my word I'd make it go, so I did.
And it did well, I guess, for 14 years.
Yeah, we had it for 12 years. I ran it for 12 years, and then we leased it for 2 years, and then we sold it not long ago.
And you turned down some opportunities to work with WWF?
Yeah, I had 3 shots to go, but I wanted to stay home with my kids. I knew I'd be gone on the road all the time.
Right. Were they offers as a wrestler or offers
wrestler?
As management?
Wrestler, yeah.
When was the last offer?
I think Michael Hayes called me. Was back. Oh, I don't. So blown back, I don't remember.
You were also. This is the first time I had met you. Is you were, I guess, an assistant for Roddy Piper when he would go on the road.
Right.
I don't want to use the term babysitter on camera, but you know,
It's okay.
Roddy likes to travel with company. And
Well, what happened was I was lifting weights and doing incline, and all of a sudden I started getting weaker on my right side every time I go back to the gym. So I went in and had a CAT scan, and they said your neck's broken in 2 places, it's fractured, 2 vertebrae, and they had the spinal cord bent like this, and within a short while, you're just going to go to your legs and you're going to be in a wheelchair if we don't get that off of there. And so, and I also have 2 fractures in the spine lower down. Hopefully not. So they went in and they took those off and they put in a cage. And I got to where I couldn't lean over that bench and work on those transmissions all day. You know, it just killed me. And so, and I couldn't wrestle. So I had to feed them kids. And so Roddy gave me the opportunity to come help him out. So I did that for a couple of years and then moved on from there.
So what have you been doing since then?
I work for Home Depot.
Very nice.
And I work in the tool rental department. I'm a technician, a big technician.
Some other names I want to mention, just kind of clean up here as we wrap up. Billy Jack Haynes, who's one of the more popular names.
You know what I just heard this last week?
What's that?
Is that now last time I seen him, he was kind of heavy. He wasn't in shape. But and he came up to me, and it was at his grocery store. I heard someone hollering, "Hey, Grapp," and I turned around, and he comes over, shakes my hand, and says, "Man, I'm sorry if I know a lot of people don't like me, and if I did something to you, I hope, I said, "This no problem here, And he never did anything to me,
Right.
And so, but then I heard that he's got cancer.
Oh,
I don't know
really?
any truth. I haven't seen it. But I heard he's down to 160 pounds. He has no hair. He's living in a room because the guy works out the gym, rents him the room.
Right.
And said, "Man, he's on his last leg, bud."
Oh, that's too bad.
It is bad. I hate to hear it.
Yeah, last time I saw him, I think it was 2 years ago. He had really good size on him. I mean, he was a
Did he?
bigger guy, so he
Yeah.
had all his hair. But
Huh.
yeah, nobody's really.
Now, I haven't seen it, so I don't
Right.
know. But I just, the guy, how rumors are. But
Sure. What memories of working a tour, the Inoki's Federation in Japan?
Oh, when I first went there, it was Dick Murdoch got me booked there. And that was every time you go there, they try you out, especially when you're new. So you gotta stand up for yourself, or you get your ass whooped the whole time you're there. And so, of course, they did the first thing, And then, yeah, I made good money. It's just once you prove that you're gonna fight back, then you're okay. But if you let them hit, like hurt you or do something to you, and you don't fight back, you're going to take an ass whooping for 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. I've seen it happen to Rick McGraw. I felt so sorry for him. There was nothing I could do. I can't fight Japan for a guy,
Can't afford to go to jail there.
Well, I mean, you can't. He has to go do his own match. And it's like he just. I don't know, but it was. Those guys test you out every time you go, or they did when I went the 3 times. I think the last time I went for wings, I think it was.
For Victor Kiona's group?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, if they Google Lynn Denton, they're gonna see a match with you and Bill Goldberg as part of his streak. It's the first thing that comes up.
Oh, I know it is, yeah.
Do you get asked about that a lot?
Oh, yeah, they ask you about that. They took it off for a while, but someone put it back.
It's back on.
Oh, yeah. No, that was that match was that was a pretty stiff match. I was working for WCW, and I was supposed to. Scott Norton got me booked there, and which he was the guy that worked for me in Portland, and he got his start kind of there. He's one of the world champion arm wrestler, and all that stuff, and so we got to be friends. So he's working for WCW, so he's going to get me booked. And the way they told me basically that I had a contract, but then I don't know what happened, what changed. But when I went there to Kansas City that night, they said, they had me with this big black guy, huge. I never seen him anymore. He was gigantic. I don't know what happened to the guy. I don't even remember his name. But I was talking to him and we're on a dart match. And all of a sudden, I seen Jimmy Hart comes in, or one of them, and goes, and says, hey, they want to talk to you. And I knew what it was as soon as I know that because I booked, right? And I go, I'm done. So sure enough, when I opened the door, there's Goldberg sitting in a chair. And I said, hey, you know what, brother? Go ahead and bring it hard as you want to, as long as it's not in the face of the nuts.
Right.
And he did. Yeah, he stuck me pretty good. But you know what? It was good. My dad had even seen it. He was still alive then. And he said, damn, that boy whooped your ass in 30 seconds. I said, don't take me long. I said, it takes a good man to beat me, but it don't take him long.
That was a long match for Goldberg.
Yeah, no kidding.
What's the story of saving Villano Four's life?
Who?
I have a story about you helped save Villano Four's life by I guess something happened backstage at a Nitro and.
You mean it was that was the same. It was at a taping in Orlando.
Okay.
And you're talking about the Mexican boys?
Yeah.
What do they call? They're
Villanos.
Villanos, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what happened is Stevie Ray dropped him. I think it was Stevie Ray. Dropped him on his. He did a reverse neck pile driver, and dropped him on his head. It slipped, And I was warming up, getting ready for my match. Was not next, but the one right after. And so in the back, they have all these props, for the shows and Disney and all that, and Disneyland. So I was sitting. There was a bench right here, and I had my feet on it. And I was doing push-ups, and there was a box at the end of the bench. He come out of the ring, and he sat down there beside me, and I was doing push-ups, and he was just sitting there. And so I went down to do a set. And when I got up, his legs were sticking out of the box, like he fell over in the box, And I go, what in the hell? So I went over there, and I pulled him out, and he's like not breathing, man. He's like, I guess he had the same operation I had. I talked to him about it later. It crushed his vertebrae when he fell, and it cut his air off. Oh, wow. And so I was screaming at Jimmy Hart because he was standing there watching the match, trying to get a medic or somebody, And the music, the pyrotechnics going off, and the music's so loud, no one could hear me. And finally, I got their attention, and they got the doc over there, and they had me holding his legs up. I didn't know what the heck I was even doing. And then they got him breathing again, and they ambulanced him out of there. Oh, wow. And he didn't even know it was me till years later. He come to work Salem fair, the fair date for me in Portland. And I was at the hotel at the Shiloh Inn, and I told him, I saved your life. He goes, what? And I told him the story. He couldn't believe it.
Yeah, did you run some like Lucha Libre oriented shows?
Yeah, we're actually going to do one coming up in, let's see, it's, I think July 31st in Hillsboro, Oregon. A friend of mine, remember Portland Wrestling had the announcer Don Koss? Yep. Don Koss owns 2 Hispanic radio stations in Woodburn, which is 30 minutes outside of Portland. And he actually owns 3 stations, but 2 are Hispanic. And he has a lot of the market there. He does the fair for them in Hillsboro and runs different lucha shows. And sometimes we'll bring guys from Mexico to work the shows, Mm-hmm. We did pretty good. We filled the high school up, There's a big population there.
You also had a wrestling school for a while.
For a while, yeah.
The guy we know, Tony Casina.
Tony Casina.
He lived in Charlotte with us for a while.
Oh, did he? Yeah. Yeah, I know Tony real well.
Well, great. Well, we really appreciate the time. We've got a lot of great stories here.
Well, good. Thank you. I'm glad to do it, man.
All right, it's George South against the Grappler. You did a pre-match interview with George South.
And Dan Parrish, I've known you for a long, long time. And I've sure known Bill Apter for a long, long time. And for Bill Apter to come here tonight must mean something special is fixing to happen. And you see, looking in this camera, folks, you look at Mr. Number One, you see someone has just messed up big time. You see, Grappler, you're as ugly and you're as mean and you're as nasty as Mr. Number One is. And just because you come from Portland, Oregon, and you're the Portland World Heavyweight Champion doesn't mean nothing. to this boy right here. You see, Dan Parrish, I don't know what to expect. You see, because he knows every dirty trick in the book, and everybody knows that he's got that loaded boot. But Dan Parrish, you know me for a long, long time. And I tell you what, you've got that loaded boot. Well, I've got that special claw glove that none other than Black Jack Mulligan gave me. So let's just see which one's tougher, Dan Parrish, tonight.
Everywhere, up and down Virginia, the Carolinas, etc. And one of the things that I think that George South has in his mind is that all the years that he knew this guy, and although they were enemies for a time, they were also friends, that the guy never took the mask off in front of him. He never actually saw who he was.
Right.
Now, George mentioned that to me several months ago. Just in passing, do you think that maybe George South wants to just, in the ring, get the mask off the Grappler?
I don't know, because, you know, I think it would be a big mistake, because the Grappler is somebody you don't want to mess with. He's been around for a very long time. He's held championship belts in Texas, the old Mid-South area. He's been all over the area, all over the world.
But still, maybe George South wants to see the guy's face after all these years. Maybe this is somebody George South has known for years, but George doesn't know it.
Maybe, but I would say the odds are greatly against the mask of the Grappler coming off.
You have two of the toughest men, toughest veterans in the entire business here.
All right, and the Grappler goes down as South winds up with a punch. And you know, this is sort of uncharacteristic, because George South, if you notice, Bill, he didn't come out and stall. I mean, he didn't come out and mouth off at the crowd or whatever, so he's in a totally different mindset tonight.
What are they saying?
Sounds like they're chanting the USA chant.
That's what I thought too, but both men are from the USA.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless maybe that's it. Maybe that's the story behind this whole thing. Maybe the Grappler is a CIA spy. Somebody called the vice president.
I highly unlikely would think so, even though we're not too awfully far away from our nation's capital.
We're trying to keep up with current events right here in pro wrestling. George South wringing that left arm of the masked Grappler.
And the crowd getting behind George South. How unusual.
Do you remember that the masked Grappler was part of the masked Grapplers
Exactly,
team?
exactly. One of which who is competing in the volunteer state of Tennessee, known as the Dirty White Boy.
That's right, Tony Anthony.
Exactly. All right, George South doing a number on that arm.
What number is that?
I don't know, Bill. It's a figure of speech.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to check. I'm here to try. You know, I'm a reporter, so I'm trying to figure it out.
Okay. Arm drag, and South comes up with the upper hand. He maintains his grip.
By the way, although a lot of people wouldn't think this to watch the dirty tactics of George South, he's quite a religious man, isn't he?
Absolutely. He's involved with a lot of shows in the Carolinas, cards that are taking place. Exodus Wrestling Alliance does a lot of religious benefits.
Does a lot of kicking also, as you can see.
He's going into Wahoo McDaniel's Indian War Dance. The late Wahoo McDaniel
Tomahawk
chopped him.
South taking his battle verbally to the crowd now.
Hey, the Grappler could be loading up that boot, Bill.
Oh,
he got him. He got him in the chest.
What is in that boot? Have you ever looked in that boot?
I never have. It's obvious there's some sort of object in there. Or maybe it's just an orthopedic boot of some kind. Grappler going outside with South, and South thrown into the ring post. He's got a chair.
Oh, man, smashing that chair on the back of George South after kicking him with the loaded boot in the front. Oh, square on the head of George South.
They're fighting all over the building here.
They're out of control right here in Waynesboro. Oh, South into the steel ring post.
Oh, and the Grappler is doing a number on George South. Clubs him right in the back. South fighting back, and the Grappler working him over.
The action now back in the ring. You know, they both listen to referee Tony Hunter. Everyone respects that man.
Oh, they might have listened to him, but they didn't pay him a lick of attention. They might have heard what he was saying, but
now you got it.
Otherwise, shoulder breaker.
That's a move made famous, do you remember, by Bob Roode.
Exactly, the former Olympian.
And many wrestlers have been able to duplicate it, and the Grappler has perfected it.
The Grappler following up with that shoulder breaker and continues to work on the arm of George South. You know, I would say this was a great scouting move from the Grappler, because South has won a match with the flying clothesline and the neck breaker. So you take that arm away, he can't use those moves.
By the way, if George South gets in trouble, I thought I saw George Jr. somewhere in the crowd here. Did you?
I have no idea, Bill.
You haven't seen him?
There's a good 1,800, 2,000 people in here.
Yeah, I know, but I thought I saw him when I first came in here.
You might have. I'm lucky I could find you.
Just look for the guy with the orange soda in front of him there.
Okay. All right, and South is fighting out. They exchange blows. Grappler sends South for the ride. George South with a sunset flip. George South.
Goodness.
George South defeats the Grappler.
Who expected that to happen in that manner?